In the second of my SpotOn GPS dog fence reviews, I want to update you with everything I've learned through my continued field testing since I started over 100 days ago. There's a lot that wasn't covered in my first video, and there are some new features that have become available since then. So I want to give you everything you need to decide if the SpotOn is the right choice for you and your best friend. As always, I'll once again evaluate the SpotOn GPS collar from a dog's perspective, so don't worry about that. Check out the video description to see the best way to let your dog be free to roam about your yard unleashed, and if I have any discounts for you guys, I'll put them down there too. When I started working with invisible dog fences over 4 years ago now, it was just the traditional and wireless in-ground systems from brands like PetSafe, Extreme, and Sport Dog, followed by knockoff after knockoff. When SpotOn stepped up to the plate, it created a class of its own. And after strapping on collars from all the different invisible fence systems to evaluate them from a dog's perspective, the SpotOn is still the one I'd most prefer to have on my neck. So I'm more than happy to do some additional field testing with it in this video for you guys. The SpotOn has a precise and logical warning system, and the only times it's ever shocked me, it's been intentional. So rather than gratuitously shocking myself, I'll find a way to up the ante and keep things fun. And yes, while the SpotOn does not utilize static correction by default, also known as a shock, it does have that functionality. I want to make it clear that I don't advocate using it to train your dog, because I can tell you from experience, it hurts. But I'm not here to tell you how to train your dog. Many dog owners think it's a worthwhile trade-off for the safety of their pet. And I don't judge. What I do is I test these products firsthand and I let you know how good they really are. So let's get down to business. So one thing you're going to notice right off the bat about the SpotOn dog fence is that it's a high-end product. So yeah, it's expensive, but it's not anywhere near as expensive as a fence if you want it to look nice, at least where I live. And definitely not if you have a large property. Plus, a lot of times people don't want a fence for any number of reasons. Now, there are some other GPS dog fences that are more affordable, but this is definitely a situation where you get what you pay for. And one common point of confusion amongst people that I speak to in our audience is that the SpotOn actually does not require a subscription, whereas most other GPS dog fences do. Now, I think a subscription with the SpotOn is worthwhile. It gives you the ability to receive escape notifications and low battery notifications on your phone, and it also allows you to track your dog's location in real time. They say it updates every 6 seconds, but I feel like I've seen it update faster than that in my experience. In any case, the SpotOn works as an invisible fence without a subscription, completely. So that's a huge advantage over other GPS fence solutions that you don't get without turning to more traditional wireless systems or in-ground systems. And there are some obvious trade-offs with those. If you do want that subscription, it's reasonably affordable. It's right about $10 per month billed monthly or $6 per month billed every 2 years at the time of filming. Plus, they offer a 90-day free trial. Another thing I love about the SpotOn is that it just works right out of the box. It's super straightforward to operate, and you can have a fence up and running in under 2 minutes. I have a video showing that right here on this channel. Of course, as with any invisible fence, you'll need to undergo boundary training with your dog before you let them roam unleashed. SpotOn does have some nice training videos to help you get up and running, and if you need a little bit of extra assistance, they even offer a free 30-minute consultation with a professional dog trainer. So let's talk about the boundary logic with the SpotOn virtual fence, and how it's supposed to work to contain your dog. As your dog approaches the boundary, the SpotOn collar uses a series of 2 tones before issuing a correction. The first tone is an alert, and it starts 10 feet from the boundary. This is a relatively gentle alternating tone, and it sounds like this. The second is a warning, which starts about 5 feet from the boundary. It's a solid tone that's slightly more agitating, I would say, and it sounds like this. Once the collar crosses the boundary, it begins to issue corrections, which are vibration by default, but can be set to static correction should you choose to use it. If you do, start with 1. It goes up to 30, but many people say you don't need anywhere near that. Now, as soon as your dog crosses the boundary, the collar switches over from containment mode to tracking mode. And one of the new features that SpotOn has implemented is escape reports. So if it becomes a pattern, you can figure out what might be enticing your dog to cross the boundary and correct it. But once the boundary correction starts, it should continue for 10 seconds and then stop as a safety feature for your dog, particularly if you're using the static correction. And if your dog turns around and comes back within the boundaries before that 10 seconds is up, the collar will return to just issuing an alert tone so your dog will understand where the boundary is. So that's how the SpotOn's supposed to work, and we'll see if that holds true once again in this video. But I've tested the boundary logic on the SpotOn many times before. I've tested it in a remote area, I've tested it in a downtown setting, and I've even tested it during a nasty New England snowstorm. You can see all those videos right here on this channel. Suffice to say, it has always worked exactly as expected. It's really quite clear that this collar was designed by a team who knows what they're doing. They used to make devices for the United States military. Their products had to work because soldiers' lives depended on them, and that's what you're getting with the SpotOn. Better yet, even to this day, the SpotOn collar is manufactured right here in the US. So when I do my field testing this time, in addition to testing the boundary logic, I'll also test that behavior once it crosses the boundary so we can see how that works in action. And I'll also give the SpotOn a run for its money to see if I can avoid getting shocked. But before we get to that, there's a bit more I want to share with you, including some new features that were introduced since my first review was published. I went over the 2 ways of setting up fences in my first video, the manual draw and walking the fence boundary. And now, as I mentioned earlier, I have an entire video about making fences with the SpotOn, including the best practices, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here. or anywhere for that matter. But what sets SpotOn's fence setup apart is that as you're walking the boundary using that second method, it automatically drops fence posts for you, because the GPS is accurate enough to allow for it. Plus, it supports up to 1,500 fence posts, which is way more than some of the other options out there, so you can make tight zigzags or whatever your heart desires. It's something you probably wouldn't appreciate until you had it, but wouldn't want to live without afterwards. Another nice thing is that you can create overlapping fences with the SpotOn, because you turn each fence on and off individually. So say, for example, you have one fence that covers your whole property, and then you have another fence that just contains your dog to a certain area within that, while you mow your lawn, for example. It seems pretty straightforward, but it's actually not something that every GPS dog fence can do. Now, in terms of battery life, SpotOn advertises that you can get about 22 hours out of a charge in containment mode, versus about 14 hours when the collar's in tracking mode. And it takes about an hour to get a full charge on a completely dead battery. Now, I haven't sat there with a timer and run around wearing the collar for 22 hours. Maybe I should. That sounds like something Mr. Beast would do. But based on my experiences, those estimates seem pretty consistent with what I've seen. And in their recent updates, they've made it so that forest mode is always on. So if you're in an area with dense tree coverage, that is, you can't really see the sky through the leaves and the canopy above you, it should be able to handle it just fine. Last, another great development that the SpotOn team released earlier this year was the inclusion of GPS-based safe zones and keep-out zones in the virtual fences. I go over how to set these up in that other video I keep mentioning, but just real quick, the point of them is to essentially create fences within fences, or conversely, a lack thereof. We'll start with the latter. Home zones are used to make safe areas within the fence where corrections are turned off no matter what. This virtually eliminates the possibility of your dog receiving a correction when they wear the collar inside, and it's a great safeguard. Keep-out zones are those fences within the fence, and they pretty much behave just like a fence boundary. These are useful for keeping your dog out of certain areas in your yard within the fence, perhaps a chicken coop, a vegetable garden, or even your kid's sandbox. So that's the SpotOn in a nutshell, but what's really impressive about it is how reliably it actually works in practice. So let's see it in action.
So what should happen as I approach the boundary is I should get the alert tone, followed by the warning tone, and then the correction, which right now I do have just set to vibrate. And what I'm gonna do is turn around and come back. We should hear that alert when I've crossed the boundary to know we're safe. And then I'll go again, and the second time I'll go and cross the boundary and continue in that direction. And what it should do is correct for 10 seconds and then stop correcting. And then basically you'll just be tracking your dog on your phone, and that's all. So let's see how it works. All right, so there's the alert. There's the warning. Now we'll continue. There's the correction, the vibration. I don't know if you can hear that, but again, we'll turn around. Now we get that alert, so we know where the boundary is, and we're back in the safe zone. So now we'll go and continue on past the boundary. There's the alert. There's the warning. Continue on here. The vibration is starting, if you can hear it. And that was right about 10 seconds by my count in my head. Sorry if it looked like I was kind of counting instead of looking at the camera. And now we'll come back to the boundary here and see if we get that alert. Yep, there's the boundary. And we know we're safe again. Excellent, so it works just as expected.
Alright, so it looks like the SpotOn works as advertised, but now it's time for me to give it a run for its money. What happens if I run at the fence boundary? Will I be able to stop before getting shocked?
Alright, so now to up the ante for you guys, I'm going to turn the static correction on. I'm going to put it to level 5, which I know hurts pretty bad from my previous experiences. So I'm really hoping that I don't get shocked. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run towards the boundary and hopefully can stop when I hear that alert tone. Although in my testing here, I have noticed that looking at the camera kind of distracts me when I'm doing, so I hope I don't just overstep the boundary. And I want to mention that, you know, I am not very fast, I'm pretty slow. I do strength training, I definitely don't run, so it's going to be more of a trot, but, you know, we'll see what happens here. Started off too close to the boundary, so let's see. That wasn't a good test, but I did stop. Try again. All right, twice. Maybe one more time, just for the camera. Why not? And I do get scared there every time, but yeah, I have repeatedly managed not to get shocked, so very much appreciate that from the SpotOn.
Now I have to admit, I was pretty nervous doing that, but thankfully the SpotOn had my back. Check out the video description for links to any deals I may have. As I'm filming, I do have one for SpotOn. You can check out my original review of the SpotOn right here, and I have tons more reviews of invisible dog fences, and GPS dog fences in particular, on this channel. Until next time, dog lovers, keep those tails wagging.